Where are you guys going?
Pikachu, Pikachu.
What are you supposed to be?
Squirtle, Squirtle, Squirtle.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. I should have known that you were turtles. My bad. Squirtle, I figured you out, but the rest I wasn't so sure, but alright. You guys gonna have some fun?
Pikachu, Pikachu.
No, I'm gonna take a shower and then watch a movie, but... Where's Claire? Another checkup? She's going to the doctor a lot lately. Alright, you guys know what to do if you get separated, right?
Baba, sir, Baba, sir.
Alright, good. Alright, have a good time. Get back before 10.
Pikachu, Baba, sir.
Hey guys. Sorry, hold on. Excuse me. Well, it's that time of year. Time for scary movies, scary stories, a lot of candy. I'm into the popcorn right now. And since 1996, scary video games. And I thought this is the perfect time of year to showcase one of my favorite gaming series. Arguably one of the greatest original silent horror games, Resident Evil. So this is going to be my, wait for it, intro over? Okay. This is going to be my top 10 favorite Resident Evil games. Now, a few things to point out before we get started. This is my own personal list. If you disagree, that's cool. If you want to tell us your own list, post it in the comments below. And actually, that'd be awesome. And the other thing is that these are the games that I have personally played or owned on my own. I've played through Resident Evil 5, but I don't own it, and I don't own Resident Evil 6, so I can't count those in this list. And honestly, they might have shown up somewhere, but not very close to number 1. These are all in actual order from 10 to 1 of my favorite games in the Resident Evil franchise. So let's get straight to it. Number 10, Resident Evil 4. This game was definitely revolutionary in terms of gameplay and storytelling. The one thing pushing it backward, they drifted away from the idea of zombies, which honestly felt like a necessity to being a Resident Evil game. And that was hard for me to digest. I mean, they tried to go in a new direction, which is cool, and there's a lot of awesome new monsters, but they weren't zombies. And to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Leon as a antagonist. I loved him in Resident Evil 2, but after that they kind of tried to make him more of this bad boy, I'm awesome, you can't touch me kind of attitude, and I feel they lost something with the original character with that. Number 9, Resident Evil: The Umbrella Chronicles. I love this game for a few reasons. Biggest one is it's a rail shooter. I really didn't have to worry about where I was going, which helps and hurts at the same time. One of the greatest things about Resident Evil is its puzzle factor, which this had very little of, if any at all. But what I did like, it felt like a story being told in flashback. Plus there's this a level at the end that's completely new. But this covered, I think it definitely covered Zero and the original remake, Resident Evil the remake. And I feel like it also covered Resident Evil 3. But at the end of it, there's this original ending where I'm guessing helps with the idea of how they took down Umbrella. And there's a whole like unlockable series of mini levels with Wesker, and Rebecca Chambers has one, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. Although I hated the snake fight, but that's because I just hate snakes. Anyway, number 8, Resident Evil Revelations. I love this game. It is truly back to basics for Resident Evil. The only problem is they added a few too many characters. The story kind of drifted, and I kind of got lost. And it was limited a little bit to it being on a handheld. Now I know they've ported it to consoles since then, but I haven't had a chance to get my hands on one of those. So, yeah, there's that. Number 7, Resident Evil the Remake. This game is awesome. It was great to see Barry Burton in a new thing. They redid everything. They remade the mansion so it wasn't the exact same game over again. There's a new subplot with a character called Lisa Trevor. The only thing that I wish I would have liked to have seen, well, two things. One, they got a different voice actor to play Wesker in this one, and that bothered me. And then I would have liked to have seen an unlockable thing where they would have just like made the original game playable in the new graphics or something. Like, just take everything from the old game, put on new graphics, and that's the new game. I don't know if I'm explaining this properly. But yeah, this is an awesome game. Definitely pick it up. Let's see, 10, 9, 8, 7. Number 6 is Resident Evil 0. I love this game for a lot of reasons. One, you get to play as Rebecca Chambers as the lead antagonist for a while. It's a prequel, so we got to see stuff before the mansion. And I love the partner dynamic. The only thing I would have liked to have seen more is that they somehow work it into a 2-player aspect. But there are points in that game where that just wouldn't have made sense. And I understand that. And I really don't have much really to complain about this. I think Wesker was in it. I can't remember if it was a new or different voice actor. I think it was the older voice actor, which I love the older voice actor. They had a voice actor that started, I think, in Code Veronica and went up through most of it. And he left. I don't know what the deal was, but he stopped doing it, and they got someone else. And I miss that good voice actor. Not from the first game, but the next time you saw him and on. Number 5? Yeah, 5. Resident Evil: The Dark Side Chronicles. This game is awesome. It's definitely a sequel to the Umbrella Chronicles. And it's the basic story is Leon and Krauser, who's an enemy in Resident Evil 4, are partners in some country, and that's an excuse for Leon to tell these backstories about Resident Evil 2, and Code Veronica. And I think those are the only 2 games they went into, other than the basic story. And it's just... those are 2 of my favorite games in the series. And I love this story, too, so... it was just a lot of fun all around. I guess the only problem I might have had is, like, the neglect of Wesker in this one. But that's going to happen. Number 4, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Now, this is the GameCube version, but it's the exact same as the PS1 version. They might have cleaned up the graphics a little bit, but I don't think so. I love this game for a lot of reasons. One of them is kind of like a side note. This was actually going to be the spin-off game, and Code Veronica was going to be Resident Evil 3. But for some reason, they switched that. I think it's because they wanted Resident Evil 3 to be on PS1 and push Code Veronica, which I guess they thought might have been the better game. I think this one was finished sooner than the other one, and they wanted to get one on the older systems, and that one had to be Resident Evil 3. So they switched the titles around and made this one Resident Evil 3. I love the idea of the Nemesis. That thing scares the hell out of me. And I don't know, I've always liked Jill Valentine, and it was fun to see her come back after being gone for so long. But this was a lot of fun. I love the whole deceit in the ranks kind of thing, like there's a secret spy villain that you don't even know about till the end. The audience might know, but the characters don't. But moving on, Resident Evil 2. This is the same thing as Resident Evil 3 in terms of this is the GameCube edition. PlayStation version is pretty much identical. I love so much stuff about this. I love the 2 scenarios. You can go through one scenario and then again through the second scenario that takes place in the same story. Or you can switch them. Like say you wanted to do Leon and then Claire, but then you wanted to play again as Claire and then Leon. You can do that, and that's awesome. And in whichever version you play, scenario B, you're being followed by Mr. X, which is kind of a precursor to the Nemesis. And that guy almost scares me more than the Nemesis, because the Nemesis, he's like, you hear him coming. He's loud and obnoxious and all that. This guy can sneak up on you, and it's scary as hell. And there's even a fourth... there's an unlockable stage about the fourth survivor, which introduces a character called Hunk. And there's another way of unlocking that where you play him as a giant chunk of tofu. I can't imagine how that would be any fun, because all you have is the knife. You can't exactly fire a gun with a giant chunk of tofu. At least I don't think so. I've never played the tofu level. But just the idea of seeing what happened after the first game, seeing the whole town infected, seeing the whole town Raccoon City, with some exceptions, which you got to see more of in Resident Evil 3, which is also awesome. This game is just amazing. Number 2 is Resident Evil Deadly Silence. Now, I would fit the original Resident Evil on par with this one, mostly because for all intents and purposes, this is the exact same game. They just added a few mini games in the Rebirth mode to make use of the DS gameplay. So it's basically the same game twice, except there's a second version where you play... it has more stuff in it, and I like that. There's some parts of it I like, some of it I didn't. But this game will always hold a special place in my heart. I remember the first time I got to the Yawn, the giant snake, I had to have my dad come into the room with me because to this day I am terribly phobic of snakes. And yeah, it was awful graphics, but for the time it was good enough to scare the hell out of me. So, yeah, okay. And number 1, Resident Evil Code Veronica X. And again, this is the GameCube version. And again, well, no, not again. Before this came out, it was just Code Veronica. That came out for the Dreamcast, which I had got right away. And funny story about that, the game comes out right away, right? Well, not right away. Their Dreamcast comes out, Code Veronica comes out a couple months later. Maybe a couple weeks. I don't remember. I don't feel like doing the math. I live in Coon Rapids, which is a good half hour to an hour away from the Mall of America, where I pre-ordered the game. Go out there, and I can't drive at this point. I'm not old enough to drive, or at least I haven't gotten my license yet. My brother drives me out there, I get the game, I get home. For some reason I decided to wait to get home to open it up. Open it up, It's 2 copies of disc 2. And nobody's going to drive me back to the Mall of America after we just got back. So I had to wait. And I don't know if I went back to switch it. I think I did. Or somebody else went and did it for me while I was at school or work or whatever. But that was really infuriating. And then to kick it off, a couple months later, Code Veronica X comes out for PlayStation 2. What? It's not even a finished version? There's so much stuff in Code Veronica X that they left out. Like, there's added stuff with Wesker, and X was just so much better than the original. But either way you played it, this was easily my favorite game in the series. And I honestly can't remember a reason why. It was definitely a new type of graphics for the games. Okay, there's a couple of reasons that I can think of. One, you have Wesker coming back. You always thought he was dead until this game came out. This game was a game changer. No pun intended. This game also saw the first time, and only time as far as I can recall, Chris and Claire finding each other. We actually got to see the siblings reunite, and that was awesome. And there was this big epic battle with Wesker that you knew was going to end eventually. It didn't end in this game, but it ended eventually. And for a long time, that's the fight people were waiting to see. Chris versus Wesker. And this was the first game you could wield 2 weapons at once. I think it's the only time they've done that. There was just so much new stuff in this game. It just... I can't stop thinking about how much I loved this game. And again, this is the GameCube version. First it came out on Dreamcast, then again on PS2 as Code Veronica X, and then they ported it over to GameCube, and I think they upped the graphics on the GameCube version too. And what I love about this, you know it's a great Resident Evil game when it's got 2 discs. I love that. This one has that. What else has that? Huh. My copy of Resident Evil is missing. But Resident Evil is only a 1 disc. It was originally 2 disc on PlayStation. Nemesis is a 1 disc. It's 1 disc. Resident Evil 0 is a 2 disc. That might have something to do with the graphics. The remake is a 2 disc. Again, graphics, and it's a bigger story. This one was made exclusively for the GameCube, as was 0. And then Resident Evil 4 at the time was only for GameCube, and I think they made a bigger version or whatever. They made one for the Wii U, or the Wii, I mean, and then it was ported to other systems. This is a 2 disc also, but I take great joy in owning one of the first copies of it because back when it was only for Nintendo, I always loved seeing that logo. Resident Evil holds many memories for me. It terrified me, it entertained me, and it kept me from sleeping for many a night. So, that's it for tonight. You guys go out, get some candy, get dressed up. Do not say a certain serial killer's name into the mirror 3 times. Do not go hang out with a babysitter when her brother happens to be a psychopath. Don't go to sleep when a child molester has died recently. Am I out of cliches? I don't know. I'm going to sit down and watch my favorite movie, which fits into the Halloween category, Gremlins. Yeah, it's a Christmas movie too, but I choose to watch it both times of the year. So, until next time, this is the Geek saying, good journey.